Ready whenever you are.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Strawberry Sundaes podcast. We're joined by the lovely Trance, man, myth, legend. Bit of a beamer on the old sticks on Warzone. Trance, how are you, brother?
I'm good, thanks. Sleeping pattern's a bit of a mess, but we're not too bad.
Typical gamer sleeping pattern there.
I've tried to fix it. I have. It's just so awkward with these tourneys, which go on quite late, and
Yeah,
it's
till
hard to
like
get to
3 in the
sleep
morning.
sometimes. Yeah,
Can't switch off.
yeah. Not
Um,
much.
so we'll start off. If you just want to introduce yourself to the people in the chat that may not know who you are, what sort of content you produce, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay. My name's Martin, otherwise known as Trance or TranceMB. Trance with 2 E's on Twitch because somebody took the other 2. Unfortunately, I have to, have another E at the end. Which, I mean, it's not terrible, but, I prefer an original username. Yeah, I've been playing COD since, I want to say, around 2006, 2007. First started on, I think it was COD 3, COD 4, around that time. I competed up until recently, last year, when I switched to Warzone. For about 6 years since Advanced Warfare. I think I went to about 15 events or something like that, and competing online all the time. Pretty much played COD every single day for about 6 years straight. So yeah, that was fun. And now I'm just producing content, Warzone currently, and I'm looking to get into Valorant and try and get good on keyboard and mouse, and playing things such as League play on Cold War, because unfortunately Warzone in recent times has become a bit stale. So I'm trying to switch it up a little bit until they breathe some new life into it soon, hopefully, with the new map adjustments and hopefully a new meta. So yeah.
Brilliant. So let's go. We'll dive a bit deeper into your competing side of things first of all. We'll go right back to the start. So you say it was AW when you started competing, is that?
Yeah, in Advanced Warfare. It was prior to that, before Advanced Warfare came out, when Ghost was out. I was playing, I think it was Black Ops 2. I was playing a lot of League play on there. And I played a couple of GBs on there, and I found some people who were playing 8s on Black Ops 2. This was when Ghost was out. And that's kind of how I got into the competitive side of things. And then I decided, all right, the new game's coming out. Why don't we try and get involved in the competitive scene, because I'm not too bad at this. So throughout Advanced Warfare, I was playing online Gfinity Cups and stuff like that, with different teams. Never really had a team which stuck. There was a couple of events which I wanted to go to. Amta Pro 1, for example, or I think it was EGL 13, but unfortunately I couldn't get a team that was committed to go to it. So unfortunately couldn't go to those. So my first event was actually at the end of the game, the end of Advanced Warfare. It was EGL 14. It was in the Norbreck in Blackpool. I think Team Infused won it or something like that, which was Marky B's team at the time. But yeah, the teams back then, I'd say there was a lot more competition, because obviously the best players in Europe were competing at the open events. So it was a lot more fun to play at, as opposed to these. Well, obviously there's no LAN events currently because of COVID, but back then, when everybody was at the event and everybody had a chance to cause an upset, it was a lot more fun to partake in, and yeah, it was just a better atmosphere because of the fans and the crowd and everything. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've not like properly competed myself, so I've not been to LAN or anything like that at all. But I can imagine that the experience is a hell of a lot better.
No,
When
it's a
you've got
lot
the
better than
crowd
online. Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And I think that's why back in the day you did have so many different people that would compete, even on these online tournaments before, like prior to going to LAN and all that kind of thing. Like the audience was so much bigger compared to what it is now.
Yeah, I think another part which comes into that was franchising. Obviously, when the league became franchised, there wasn't any reason for amateur organisations to get involved in the amateur scene, because, well, what do they get? There's no exposure. They don't get to play against the best players in the region, all you can get from it really is a couple of quid to take away, if you're lucky. But that's only if you have like the top maybe 1 or 2, 3 teams in the region. So there's not really much room for return of income for amateur organisations, and I feel like that's why the amateur side of things has died quite a bit. There's not really much money in it. I know it's not all about money, but for it to be sustainable, you do have to have some kind of income. So I feel like that's why the scene died quite a bit. The fun got taken out of it. There wasn't smaller events. Obviously, you can only have CDL sanctioned events now. Back in the day, you used to have smaller EGLs, I-Series events, things like that. For a load of foreign events you went to, like SFCOs in France. The Spanish circuit was up and running, but now obviously Activision shut all that down because they want their events to be the only events you're allowed to go to, which is understandable because it's their game. But yeah, I feel like that kind of killed the scene a little bit. Obviously, franchising was the way to go because in terms of like the sustainability for the future of the competitive title, and it gave a career to so many people, like stable income, healthcare, and things like that. Like, it was the correct way to go, obviously, but there needs to be more support for the amateur scene, which there isn't currently, and that's part of the reason why I decided to switch to Warzone and stop competing, because I put a lot of time into competing over those years, and I never really got my shot, my chance, or my opportunity. When I believed I was always good enough to like get somewhere, but unfortunately, when you're in the amateur scene or just Call of Duty in general, it's very circle and friendship based. Apart from obviously your wild anomalies such as Simp, Kleenex, players like that who are just ridiculous at the game, and they're always going to get picked up. But yeah, it's really hard to work your way up if you're already in the scene and you're not like a fresh face.
Yeah, I think especially from, I mean, I'm no expert within, the amateur scene at all, but especially when we talk about like the exposure and that sort of thing, where they took away the streams for the amateurs.
Yeah,
there was no way of amateurs actually proving that they are like this freak of nature on a game and that they are literally taking over the map on their own. Whereas like within, prior games to Modern Warfare, you had that in place. So for example, on Black Ops 4, Simp could show how good he was within the challenger scene because of the streams that they played. And I think it was the start of Modern Warfare, if I'm not wrong, that they changed it where that they scrapped all the challenges to be streamed. You could stream them yourself.
yeah.
It wasn't like that branded by themselves, and they actually get involved with the streams. And I think obviously, again, going back to COVID, I think that the big part of that was, due to COVID. There's not a lot that a Call of Duty franchise can do in terms of they're quite selfish in
they have online events, and that's all
exactly.
they can do, really.
Yeah, and I think they're selfish in terms of the franchising. They've paid a hell of a lot of money to get into these leagues, so I guess the exposure's for them only.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, we missed the events where amateurs can make a run and perhaps take down the Titans," but at the end of the day, they're not going to allow amateur teams who haven't paid a penny to play in the league to compete against the teams which have paid $25 million to compete in the league. At the end of the day, it's not going to happen. But yeah, as you said, in terms of the exposure and everything, the last event where, I think it was the last event anyway, where teams were allowed to play against, like amateur teams were allowed to play against pro teams. I think it was Black Ops 4 Champs. That was you could qualify for that event. It was an open. Well, it wasn't an open. It was you could qualify for it. And that event is where Kleenex got noticed. Obviously, where he popped off again.
Is it Singularity and Team War made that mad run, didn't they?
Yeah. Team War got. I think they both got top 12, I believe. Team War actually choked. They could have done a lot better. I think they were 2-0 up against E6, and ended up getting reverse swept. I think anyway. And then Kleenex he popped off against Envy. And that's where he got noticed mainly. And then obviously the next year he had eyes on him and he got brought through. But yeah, it's things like that. There's not obviously there is this year specifically there have been a lot of amateurs being picked up in the league, like Neptune, Fire. Who else is there? Standy. Like there are people being picked up, but it's solely in the NA region for the most part, apart from Insight obviously, but he was picked up prior to the start of the year.
Yeah, it's quite NA based at the minute in terms of bringing people through. There isn't. I do still think that the major issue is the visa stuff, because you would have people like Zero playing for London.
Yeah.
I do strongly believe that a few of the EU challenges would have been considered, not necessarily picked up, but they would have definitely been considered.
Well, yeah, I can definitely name a few, like Zafro, obviously. There's players who have always been floating around that top EU, like your top 1 or 2 teams.
Yeah.
Like your Bids, for example, who's been consistently playing well. We've got players like Jed, Detain, Maple. Obviously, Trey's playing in amateurs now. It's mad. Muskin's starting to play Challengers Cups and everything now. He's grinding league play all the time. He's trying to get back in the mixer. But yeah, there's not really that sort of exposure because I think the main issue is in the American amateur scene, there are a lot of ex-pros in that scene. So there's more merit to it if you do well and consistently do well, because obviously there's better competition at the end of the day. But
100%.
Like a lot of people say in Europe, yeah, European teams can compete, but it's only really the top 1 or 2. It's the fact that the NA scene is so stacked with people who have played in the league and play with former pros, and they are former pros, and it's just so hard for a European player to get noticed unless it's a player like, obviously, Afro's being picked up to London, but that's an English organisation. You've got Hydrig picked up by Subliners, which is obviously Clayster. He scouted him as he does. But other than that, in terms of Europe, there's not really much going on in terms of scouting.
Again, we go back to the point that you have to literally just be like a freak at the game.
Yeah.
Hydra was just dominating the EU and then went over to NA and was dominating over there.
Yeah.
And then the same with Afro. Obviously, Afro's just been dominating. So you have to sort of be your standout. You know, you got to stand out. Otherwise, these people ain't even going to bother.
Yeah, that's mainly in Europe. Though. In the States, you don't have to be that freak of nature by any means. Like, if a gap needs filling and they feel like you're suitable to fill the gap, they'll give it a go, like they did with Neptune, for example, and Standy. No, and they've obviously performed and they've played well. But the thing is, the league's quite small in terms of there could be so many players who are good enough to play in that league, but there are a lot of players in the league who are just there because of who they are. And the fresh new talent in challenges could easily replace them. So I feel like that's another reason going into it, that people aren't willing to give chances because they're afraid they'd get replaced by these new upcoming players, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, you need to breathe new life into the league and sustainability in the future of the league. But I feel like Call of Duty as an esport and a competitive title is very, very circle and friendship based, even in the league. You don't see that in other games.
No. I think that a lot of other games that, like say you just mentioned, that it is just whoever the best players are, whoever works better together. Yeah. Even if they don't get on, if they play the game well together, chuck them in a team. It's not, you know, who your mates are and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But let's go into the time where you obviously made the switch from competing, obviously then Warzone. So was that Warzone when it first came out? So about a year ago.
So I was still competing when Warzone first came out. I think I didn't play Warzone for the first 2 or 3 weeks when it came out. I probably missed out on a couple of opportunities because of that, but I was still competing at the time. And there was obviously the Amateur Champs last year, which I played in. So I still had to put time into scrims and stuff like that whilst also playing Warzone. So I'd announced I'd made the switch, but I was still competing in that. So I still had to put some time aside for scrims and competing. Ended up placing, I think it was top 16 in that event, even though I was playing Warzone every single day. So I think I had a big what was it? Just before that event, like the week before that event, I played in it was $75,000 Twitch Rivals event in Warzone in trios. I ended up placing 5th in that. So I missed like 2 or 3 days of practice scrims for that. And still ended up placing top 16 in the COD Champs event, where we were playing against people who were scrimming every single day for 6 hours. So I feel like that was quite good. But after that, I solely diverted my attention to Warzone, playing it every single day. I streamed every single day for, it was like 144 days or something like that. And then I went to university, which was quite a tough time. University wasn't for me at the end of the day. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't studying the right thing, but it was one of those things where I'd done gaming for so long, so I thought I need something else to do just in case this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not always going to work out. So I went to uni. Didn't enjoy it. Didn't enjoy the course. Didn't enjoy the atmosphere. Could have been due to COVID. I'm not too sure, but I really wasn't happy there. I wasn't streaming as much. Like, to go from where I was in August or September to go into university, my stream fell off quite a bit. Like, I was in a good position in hindsight when it came to streaming, and it was growing and growing and growing. And then I went to university, and it kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah.
So then I ended up dropping out in December, I believe it was, like the end of November, start of December. Came back home and started streaming properly again, and I've seen a lot of growth recently, which is good. I played in another tournament in January with Vicstar and Sebi. Ended up placing fourth in that. It was a Ravenstorm tournament held by, obviously, London Royal Ravens franchise. And that's another good thing to see, actually, in Warzone. A lot of the CDL franchises host tournaments for Warzone, which is good, obviously. But it's just the state of the game, unfortunately. Like, all this money's been poured, but there's no anti-cheat, loads of hackers. And the metas obviously aren't great. But that's another thing when it comes to the metas. You've got to take in mind that Warzone as a whole is for casuals. It's for the casual player base, the general population. It's not like a CS:GO where the game's built for competitive at the end of the day. And when you first play it, you're playing on a competitive like map set. It's the same game mode throughout. Warzone isn't like that. So they try to cater for more casual players for the most part, and that's why the metas are so difficult to play for people who play competitively. And yeah, basically. But that tournament went well, placed fourth in that, and I've just been streaming ever since, just trying to put in as much time as possible and, try and grow a little bit. I miss competing. Every other day I'm like, I want to go back to competing. I really miss it. I enjoyed doing it because I've always had that competitive drive. But then I just think you're not going to get anywhere unless you're like a new fresh player or there's some like weird situation where you can make it. I feel like it's mostly a waste of time. And the time could be spent elsewhere. Like, I enjoy streaming more. I don't have to scrim and get stressed out. Because that was one of the worst parts about competing. Because I didn't enjoy scrimming too much. I enjoyed the tournaments and the competition and the LAN events and stuff. I didn't really enjoy the practice part of things because people played a lot different in practice, other teams mostly, than they did in tournaments, and it was just really frustrating to play against because you play against a team and you'd get spat on in scrims, and then you go and play them in a tournament and it'd be the fastest series of your life. So that's why I really didn't like scrimming. Yeah. But yeah, on Warzone now, hopefully the new update soon kind of fixes the game a bit, makes it more enjoyable. Yeah, that's that.
So, going back to sort of Warzone, and we're talking about the metas and stuff. What, if it was ideal for yourself, what meta would you go with? So we can go back to previous metas that you've been on, or
Kilo MP5.
Kilo MP5.
That was the most skillful meta, 100%, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. I was actually having this conversation last night about the current meta, and people are just like, "Oh, just adapt to it. You've got to use the meta weapons and stuff like that." But I think the issue with the metas recently is that the meta weapon, the main gun, is so overpowered that you can die to anybody using it. And I think that's the issue. Back in the Kilo MP5 meta and the metas prior to that, so obviously the Grau meta and the M4 meta prior to that as well, is if you started getting shot at by somebody who had a Kilo, it was easy enough to turn on them. Like, the TPK wasn't too high. You could spit on anyone. I could literally run about the map, and it was just so easy slaying out. This meta, if somebody's got an AUG, you're walking across an open field, you're dead. If they have a Kilo, you're not. You can bob and weave, you can jump, you can turn on them. So yeah, I feel like the current metas aren't as skillful, but as I said, they're trying to cater to the more casual player base. And obviously, I feel like the integration of Cold War into Warzone played a big part in that, because obviously they want to put Cold War weapons in the game. They want the skins to be bought, and they want those weapons to be used. Therefore, the tuning goes in favor of the Cold War weapons. and that's why they make them more powerful. Like you saw with the DMR meta, and obviously now the Org meta and the FFAR. It makes the game not as enjoyable, but the best players are still the best players at the end of the day. Like your Jukis, your Rated, your Raiden, they're still best in the game because they adapt to the metas. Unfortunately, I really struggle to adapt to use broken weapons, so I'm not as good in this meta as I was in prior ones. Like Kilo MP5, I was so confident and I really enjoyed the game. But in recent times, I've not been enjoying the game as much due to, obviously, as I mentioned, the weapons aren't really favourable for me. Yeah, Kilo MP5 definitely my favourite meta.
Yeah, I mean, even the ones like you say, the Grau and the M4. At least, like you say, it wasn't the fact that anybody could use them, and you wouldn't just die to someone that sat on top of a building just pre-aiming you with an AUG from miles away.
Yeah,
because I think that's probably the problem at the minute, that you literally sit on top of it. You can walk through an open field and you're dead. Like, it just ruins the whole sort of experience. I've not played Warzone for over a week, and I'm not in any interest to jump back on it, because at the moment, even with, like you say, even with the recent tuning, all people have had to do is change one attachment with the FFR, and that's it, and it's back to what it was. And it's just in my opinion, it should never be 2 assault rifles in one mount. It should be your AR and your close range gun, whether that be, I didn't like the shotguns, but whether that be shotguns, pistols, submachine guns, they are built for close range, so that's what should be used. Obviously, people aren't going to use an SMG when an assault rifle kills them a hell of a lot quicker.
Oh, 100%. That was my thing. Like, I didn't really want to use the FFAR, and I didn't for when it became meta initially. I didn't. I carried on using the Mag 10 because I was like, I don't want to use a weapon that's that broken. You don't feel like you don't have any validation when you kill somebody with a weapon that's broken. That's my thought process, and it always has been throughout all these metas with broken weapons. I've always tried to use skillful weapons, and that bites me in the back and hinders me because obviously you're playing against people using all of the broken stuff, so you kind of have to use it at the end of the day. Like, even in this meta, I haven't used the AUG, I've used the AMAX. And a few select people have stuck with the AMAX as well. But it's just really frustrating when you're in a gunfight with an AUG and you lose it because they've got an AUG, like to a lesser skilled player. But that's the thing, it's a BR at the end of the day. It's not built for competitive. So you can't expect to have that kind of competitive atmosphere. And you're going to get a lot of stuff thrown at you, like hackers, obviously, dumb stuff in the game like RPGs. So if you're looking for a game which is strictly competitive, you don't want to be looking at Warzone. Like, that's why I miss competing a lot of the time, because there wasn't all this external stuff that you could die to, and there's not really anything you could do about it. At the end of the day, when you're competing, it's you and your team, and your strategies, how good you are in terms of like gun skill and reactions and everything. There wasn't this external stuff like RPGs and I don't know, just dumb stuff you die to in game, or meta weapons and everything like that. It was a lot more fun. I really do miss competing, but as I said, there's not really anything in it at the end of the day, regardless of how much I enjoy it.
I mean, you still, like you say, you've been in those big tournaments where you can still have that sense of competition.
Yeah.
But I think, obviously, like you say, there's a lot more to it than just jumping on and having a private match against another team, and it just kind of that being it. The factors of you putting in the work in scrims and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's more of the fact that you've got all these external factors that could, like you say, you could get RPG'd out of nowhere. You could get sniped from.
That's my classic. That's my classic. Like getting headshot sniped. Yeah.
So it is.
My viewers will tell you that I love that. Yeah.
You've got all these external factors that you've got no control over, and I think that the better players that are being so successful within Warzone just seem to make it so seamless that those external factors just don't happen. Yeah. And I mean, obviously the hours are being put in, so it's in one way you'd kind of expect it. But obviously the gun skill and the movement and that of some players are just a joke.
I feel like another thing which plays into it is obviously the size of a creator. I feel like the game back in August with like the Kilo MP5 meta and the metas which were fun to play, is it was so easy to just grind the game out and not lose full and enjoy it because the game was fun to play. I feel like in these current metas and like the way the game is and how hard it is to grind, the bigger content creators, like they've got that, they're already established. They're not working to, well, they're still working towards things obviously, but they're in a decent position in terms of their viewership, their charts, their support, and everything. So if they have an off game, it's like they brush it off. It's easy. Like they've got another tournament coming up. They've got something else to play in. For people like such as myself or smaller creators, if the game's stressing us out and it's like it's making us play worse and we're struggling with it, and we're not like that size, we don't have essentially we don't have another tournament coming up guaranteed. We don't have something else coming up. So if you're dying to something external and out of your control, it just plays on your mind and gets in your head because you don't have that opportunity guaranteed in the future.
No, exactly. I think you said it perfectly there, where you say that these big streamers, they might play 2 or 3 tourneys a day, and they might have the rest of the week.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like,
out.
They're gonna get annoyed if they lose a tourney. Like, they're still gonna get annoyed, the same as any other competitor would. But few players like Aiden rated, just your bigger players that you think of in terms of competitive Warzone, they're always going to get invites to tourneys. They're always going to get into them. So they can brush it off, regain the next day, and they've got another tournament in 2 days, like another big tournament. That's not the same for all of us. And that's why I miss metas like the Kilo MP5, because I felt like, for the most part, it was on me whether I succeeded, like my own individual skill. And the tournaments I did play in that meta, I won. I won like two $6,000 tournaments, I think it was. It was dialed up games. And I obviously placed 5th in that Twitch Rivals. I probably should have placed better. There was a dispute with one of the admins, unfortunately, in terms of the timing of when we searched for a game. So one of our games got disallowed. We actually probably should have won that tournament. But that was an unfortunate situation. But yeah, I felt like back in the Kilo MP5 meta, it was down to me, my skill, how I played individually, which produced results. Nowadays, I feel like it's not like that. Obviously, you've also got people using VPNs, not proven, obviously. You had the SBMM site to look into that. Unfortunately, that isn't the thing anymore. So you can't see if somebody's abusing something to get easier lobbies, which is why bot races, for the most part, are, I don't want to say void, but they're a lot less reputable than 2v2s are. And obviously 2v2s are also stressed because you've got hackers in the game, so you have resets, you have glitches in the game. Right, you had the invisibility glitch come back the other day with the choppers. It just amazes me how these glitches keep coming back into the game when they've happened before. Like, how have you not fixed something which has happened so many times before? The stim glitch, like the unlimited tactical glitch, like it's been back 7 times. 7. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. How have you not fixed a glitch which has been in the game 7 times? It just it doesn't make sense to me.
I think in all honesty, with the stuff like the glitches that come out, I honestly think that they leak these glitches to get more of like exposure within social media.
Yeah.
So I'm talking TikTok, YouTube, of people, because people do use videos. They either show people doing it or do it themselves and create that, and then it creates, I mean, it's a negative buzz, but any buzz within, their brand is a good buzz, isn't it? I guess, because they're exposing their brand. So I honestly do think, because like you say yourself, it's been in there 7 times. Once you've covered it once,
I actually thought about that a couple of days ago, because when you think about it, some of the ways you do these glitches, it's just ways you'd never find out yourself. It's just things you'd never think of. Like, how does nobody's trying out every single exploit to find out what the new Stim glitch is. Somebody within the game or one of the developers they must be telling them how to do it, because it's not something you just find on the day of the update releasing. Do you know what I mean? Because it's different times each time, and it gets harder to do each time, but it is still in the game. So you've got to think, how is somebody finding this out straight away? Like, they must be being told about it. It does make sense. And also the issue with the hackers and everything as well. They obviously made everybody's COD tracker, like their Activision profiles, private again, like a few months ago. They made everybody's profiles private, which made it harder to see if somebody was hacking. So instead of sorting the issue out and creating an anti-cheat or like banning accounts, it took Vicstar to contact them for them to actually start doing something with these ban waves, but it still doesn't do much because they just create new accounts. But yeah, the fact that they've tried to just cover it up by, I don't know, trying to hide it by making the accounts private so you can't see if somebody's hacking, which obviously causes issues for tournaments. You need a clip, and if you don't get a kill cam, then you can't see if they're hacking. The fact they made the accounts private just goes to show that they don't want to try and resolve the issue. They just want to try and, have a temporary solution and just hide the fact that there's so many hackers in the game. But that's Raven software.
I think, like you say though, you've got these problems where people are competing for 75 grand split between 3 or 4 players or whatever, and in some games you do have to have that proof. If you get killed by a hacker, you have to have that proof to show, like the tourney organisers, and a clip from Twitch might not be enough. They might say, show us. And one thing that I know from experience myself of the smaller ones that I've played in is that if you get killed by a hacker and you've got the proof of like a clip from your stream, and they say it looks a bit sus but it's a bit on the line, what more can you like show us? You should go straight to the COD tracker,
get the KD,
exactly, pull it straight up and say, here you go, here's more proof, and they'd say, yep, clear cheater, perfect. And like you say, people are able to mask that now so that you can't even go onto their profile and show that there are cheaters there. So if you've not got a clear enough clip, you could miss out on a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that they're trying to like mask, because they don't want to pay and invest in this huge anti-cheat. They are literally finding ways to mask it, including the SPM Warzone website where you can tell what lobbies you're in. Straight away masked it, because you could also see people's KDs on there and how many kills they'd got and what your KD was within that lobby, and little things like that clearly Activision don't want you to see. So they're quite happy to just shut down that and just let people crack on and just mask all these cheaters. And ultimately I do think that you give it another 6 months, for example, on the same sort of downward spiral with the metas and that kind of thing, people will just end up going to a different game.
That's the thing, is another game which can compete with Warzone comes out, it's curtains for them at the end of the day.
I mean, do people go back to play Blackout? Do people go back and play other games such as like say Valorant? Do people then just go and play Apex or Fortnite or just other battle royales?
That's something I've considered. Obviously, I've considered playing Apex. I probably will play it at some point soon. I really haven't been playing Warzone as much because just the amount of stuff which happens, which we just don't have control over. Like stream snipers. Out of the past 10 tournaments, I've probably died to stream snipers in maybe 5 or 6, with like solid proof and everything. But there's nothing you can do about it because, well, there's nothing in place to stop stream snipers other than hiding your screen. And if somebody gets into your game and kills you, like even if they're not trying to stream snipe, if somebody gets into your game and kills you, they come to your stream and then they're stream sniping you for the rest of the game, even if they've not tried to in the first place. And it's just like, where's the streamer mode? What is there in place to prevent this? Because obviously the bigger streamers like Jukies, he gets stream sniped every other game, if not every game. He has to hide his screen and have a delay on for every tournament, which is just, you can't interact with your chat. It's like, it's counterproductive. And they're doing things like they've shadow banned people who aren't hacking. Like Rated. Rated is shadow banned.
Yeah.
The guy is a former CDL pro and he's been shadow banned. Like, he's not cheating. Like, how can you possibly think he is suspicious? Like, he used to play at a pro level in the CDL, which most of the organizations are CDL sanctioned. The competitions are CDL sanctioned. Like, they are CDL organizations hosting these events. You've got a player who used to play in the league, and he's been shadow banned as if he's a hacker. Like, he can't produce content because he's having to play on a fresh account with guns which aren't leveled up. He can't play in tournaments because he's not got his account. He's playing on 300 ping lobbies filled with hackers. Like, what's all that about? I know Jaffa, if you know Jaffa Inc., he's been shadow banned as well. Like, he's not cheating. It's just stupid. They're banning the people, shadow banning the people who aren't cheating, and just neglecting the people who are making fresh accounts and abusing these free cheats online and going on these websites to get an advantage over other people.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the shadow ban stuff, that is beyond me. And you've got to think someone within that organisation that's sanctioning these shadow bans and the blocks of the cheats and that kind of thing. Surely someone within that bracket would watch Rated or Aiden or know who they are, and someone's actually gone out of their way to shadow ban him. It just makes like complete no sense to me in terms of you're shadow banning people who are actually competing for money twice a day. Like, you must, if you're interested within Warzone, like you work for that brand, you must know that they play that game. Like, of course you do. You don't have to play the game every day to know that people like Rated, Duke is, Aiden, Nick Merckx, those sorts of people play. It just it baffles me.
I think Aiden did get shadow banned at one point, but he got resolved pretty quickly. That's the thing. These bigger content creators, obviously Rated's in 100 Thieves, Nate Shot will have that sorted for him. Like, he won't be shadow banned for too long. Hopefully. I mean, that should be the case. But for these smaller creators, what are they supposed to do if they're shadow banned for a week or two? Like, that's hindering their future and their career. Yeah. Like, the amount of viewership, like, in terms of revenue and everything, if you can't properly stream to the best of your ability because your account's been temporarily banned, what are you supposed to do? It's taken away from your livelihood, and there needs to be some form of compensation there. Like, if they're banning you for no apparent reason, by accident or whatever it is, they need to be compensating you in some way, because
I think you've literally just hit the nail on the head. I think you look at people like you mentioned, that Jaff got banned. You're looking at honest people that are trying to make a living through streaming, and you actually have Activision hindering that because, like you say, it's not going to get resolved straight away because they're not this huge, or they don't have a backing of like some major organisation within the CDL. Like, if you don't have that backing, then again, you're going to struggle. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that resolved. If it takes a week, potentially, like you say, your chat could go elsewhere. Your chat could go to another streamer, and you can't expect people to wait for you to resolve your issues when it's completely out of your hands. So it's a tough one. But if we were just quickly refer back to the stream snipers, if anyone or you know anyone that stream snipes or you stream snipe, you're an absolute weapon. In my opinion.
100%. Oh, you should have seen it the other day. You should have seen it. Well, when I was playing a tournament with Jaffa, we died to somebody. And it was sus. And then he died to somebody again in another suspicious situation. Like, the guy was pre-aiming a door he came out of, and we were just like, and then we looked and he was in his viewer list. The guy was in his viewer list. So the guy was playing with, like, they were playing as a duo. He was in my stream saying, he's not stream sniping. So Jaff got him in a call. The guy's called Buckers. He's like a VIP for FIFA Kill or something. Jaff got him in a call, and the guy said he was playing a 2v2 wager. So he couldn't back out. Like, he knew we were in a tournament, but he couldn't back out because he was in a 2v2 wager. So the conversation dragged out. Jaff was like, all right, can you get me the CMG link then, please, pal? After a few minutes, Jaff was like, have you got this CMG link? And the guy was like, sorry, I won't be able to get it for you. I lied about that. There wasn't actually a match. And we were just practicing. We were playing duo quads. So, like, and then he was like, but we weren't stream sniping. So, like, why have you not backed out of the game? Like, I don't understand it. Like, if you're just playing duo quads, you've seen we're in a tournament. Like, we're in a tournament because your mate's in our stream. Like, he's in the stream. You can see the title, tournament. And he's not backed out of the game. And he's just carried on playing and played the game out. And they've lied and said that they were in a 2v2 so they couldn't back out, making it look even more shady. Like, come on, man. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't see what they gain from it.
I think you've... Now, I'm referring to the most recent one that I've seen on... Because it was obviously branded a lot on Twitter, was the one with Jukies, where that guy's got Juki streaming. He's streaming himself.
The guy's got motion blur on and he's crouching, crab walking. He
And
doesn't know how to
he's
tack sprint
calling
properly.
Jukies out from a second monitor and saying he's here, and then calls FIFA kill out as well. And then obviously that's clipped and put, like on Twitter and whatever. But this guy's doing it while streaming, like, and you think the people that don't stream, that they're just going to do it obviously even worse. But again, if someone sees that you're in a tourney and they join your game, in my opinion, they don't have to leave the game. If that's their choice, if they don't want to leave the game, they don't want to leave the game. But at least close the stream, shut down all whatever, because you see them still in the viewer list. You see them still, and then they just find out where you are, like mid-map. It's just all a bit like, if they close your stream and then you get into a gunfight middle of nowhere, and literally you stumble across them and you trade each other or whatever, then you put your hands up and say, fair enough, like you know what I mean? I've lost that gunfight. But if they come round pre-aiming a door, knowing that you're going to run through it in 5 seconds, then it just ruins their reputation. But then obviously then you're potentially out of for example, a tourney or out of money. And a lot of people are playing this for, full time. So it's just not.
Yeah,
it's not the right sport.
The thing is, they might not even show up in your viewer list. Like you can watch somebody's stream without being logged in or anything. Like they could be stream sniping for all you know. Like I died before a lot of times where I thought, right, that was a bit suspicious. How do you know I was there? But they're not necessarily going to appear in your viewer list, so you can't prove the stream sniping unless, for example, you've got a clip like Juki's did, where they're literally calling them out. You need substantial evidence for that. So at the end of the day, you could lose a tournament because you've been stream sniped, but there's no proof for it. Like yourself, like I've been playing this game every single day. I've been playing COD for years. I know when something fishy is happening. It's like any good player knows when something dodgy is happening and they're not dying in a legitimate way. But you need the proof for it, and that's the thing. And that's why there needs to be a streamer mode. Just the way it is, everybody's going to have to play like covering the screens or using a delay, especially at the size of like Juki's. I know Juki's has been pestering FIFA Kill a lot to put a delay on when he plays tournaments now because it's going to happen. He's going to get stream sniped. And even still, people will still manage to get in the game. They have a delay and they have the screens, and still people manage to stream snipe him. It doesn't make any sense at all. But yeah, it's definitely an issue. I don't see what these people gain from stream sniping. Like, killing your favourite streamer isn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going to get you. They're not all of a sudden going to say, yeah, come in the game and let's play.
Yeah, like, bro, you just spat on me. I'm going to get you in for a tournament.
Yeah, no. you've just pre-aimed me through a door. Like, yeah, come on, let's play with me. It's just not. Yeah, it's no good for them personally. And obviously, again, like, they do it to their, like you say, favourite streamers. And you're costing your favourite streamer potentially like thousands and thousands of pounds. So you're not exactly going to be in the good books, are you?
Like one of the tournaments I played in, I was with Revolt against, I think it was Juki's and Delio. They were getting stream sniped, so they had a few deaths due to stream snipers. But at the end of the game, they won the game, Juki's and Delio, because they killed the stream snipers. The stream snipers got spat on. So like, we've lost because they've been given kills by stream snipers who aren't very good. Like, that just blows my mind. Like, I was sat there thinking, you're stream sniping and you're not killing them and you're giving them extra kills. Like, why are you in the game? Like, are you purposefully giving them kills, or are you just not good at the game? Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, I can imagine, especially like say when you're in that position where you are playing these big streamers, that you can imagine it being quite frustrating.
It's a different game completely. I've always said this. Every time I play against Juki's, the lobbies are different.
Yeah. Every
time you play against him, the lobby, it's not the same lobby as you used to play in. It's more sweaty. There are people in the lobby trying to stream snipe. It's just a different ball game when you play against somebody like him. Like you can tell straight away that the lobby's different every single time you play against him.
I mean, when you're holding down, he'll just do a basic stream and hold down 3K viewers. Do you know what I mean? So you're always going to get quite a lot of them that try and, like you say, stream snipe.
Probably like a good 200-300 of them trying to get in his game.
Yeah,
minimum.
All just trying to get in and, like you say, try and prove their point, but just making it, like, going about it completely the wrong way. But we'll go on to the next bit of questions. So we'll go into what your best content moment would be to date. whether that be through competing, whether that be through streaming, anything like that.
Best content moments to date. Obviously, I played that tournament with Vicstar. That was quite a fun one. Obviously, speaking to him and having people coming from his community and gas you when you're playing well. I played really well in that tournament. I think I had like the third most kills in the entire tournament. And just to have so many people giving you props and gassing you when you're playing well, it's quite big, especially from a creator like Vicstar. I had another smaller tournament with an Italian player called Savvy Ultras that Mike Wall and I played with him. And his community was ridiculous. The chat was just filled with Italian. Didn't have a clue what was going on, but I was getting loads of follows and just the chat was just blowing up and everything, and that was insane. I feel like a lot of the foreign communities are a lot more supportive than the UK community, but that could be due to it being more saturated. There's a lot more British streamers, sorry. So I know your Italian community, your German community, Spanish, they've got so many fans, so many supporters. And yeah, that Italian tournament was really fun to play, and it was just mad hype and everything. And even to this day, people come in from that tournament, Italian people, and we're like, I know Savvy's. He's saying his supporters are called the Sharks. They're called the Sharks, which in Italian is Lo Squalo. So I always have people come into our stream saying that. Even to this day, and it was a few weeks ago. Like, it's mad the amount of support he has. Then obviously there was the Twitch Rivals event, which I placed fifth in. Just big tournaments, really, where you've got a lot of people in your chat just hyping you up and giving you support, especially when you make a sick play. It makes you play better. Like, I thrive off that hype and just that gas you get when you make a sick play, and it makes you perform better. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go on to the final question, because I think you covered quite a lot of, like, you know, who you've worked with within the scene and like your competitive side of things. So
yeah,
if you could work with one person, again, whether this could be any game with it, but obviously within esports. But if you could work with one person or an organisation, we'll say, who would it be and why?
Does this have to be realistic or just like a dream thing? Just hypothetical?
Whoever you like would be top of your list if you got the opportunity. If someone said to you, anybody within esports or any organisation within esports, you could pick right now, who'd you pick?
It's got to be Hex.
Yeah,
you have to say Optic Hex. In terms of just as a person, he is like literally the pinnacle. He's right at the top. He just see how successful he is. The things he's done for his players. Obviously, there was the recent video that the Optic gaming channel released about Maniac. Just the amount of support he gives to the people under his company's organization, everything is just unparalleled. He knows how to do it. He's been in the business for time. I'd just love to have a conversation with him and just peck his mind and just, try and learn from him. That's the person side of things. If I had to pick an organization, you'd have to say 100 Thieves. Obviously, Nadeshot he learned from Hex, so a lot of his ideas and things in terms of content and everything will have stemmed from Hex, but he's also a very creative person himself. 100 Thieves is one of the most successful organizations at the minute, and just to be under that umbrella and the amount of content opportunities which would open up and things you could branch out into would just be amazing. For the most part, I feel like 100 Thieves is a lot more family-based and community than Optic. It's a lot larger in terms of the amount of people under their organization. So that's why I'd say in terms of organization, 100 Thieves, and then obviously for person, Hex, because, well, he is who he is.
Yeah. I think they're both run on the same morals as, once you're within that, with that organization or with that person, they look after you regardless.
100%.
So like say, even when Hex left and when obviously did the Huntsman and that kind of thing, he then come back and he's bringing all these old school members that he looked after in the past, and he's saying, look, you come under my wing again.
He never forgot. Like the whole thing with Maniac and everything, like he bought his contract and everything and brought him back to Huntsman initially, and then obviously sorted him out through the Optic thing, and he was there for him every step of the way and reached out to him, and you wouldn't get many people doing that. Like, it's like he treats them like family, and that's what you really need from an organization, is somebody looking out for you as if you're one of their own. Because if you feel like you have that within an organization, you have stability, and it's a lot more. It's just good to know that you have somebody there for you in case you need advice. And I feel like there's people in the European scene who are like that. Somebody such as Kyle. I don't know if you know Kyle.
Yes, yeah, I've
Kyle.
yeah.
I've had a few chats with him. Obviously, I spoke to him about my streaming career and everything, and he's another person who offers really good advice and is there for everyone. He's that person who you can go to, and you always know he's going to offer sound advice. He's always there. If you need him, he'll take time out of his day and he'll speak to you. And I'd say he's a lot like Hex, for example. He's very business orientated. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and yeah, I'd say Kyle's a person who I've had recently who really helps me in terms of like what I need to aim towards, and he's kind of who I look up to in terms of. I don't want to say who I want to be, but who I want to be like. A lot of his philosophies and just his success is what I yearn for, and I aspire to be like him in the future. And yeah, it's something I'm looking towards.
Yeah, I think he's huge within sort of, especially within the UK scene, but not only, you know, people working with people like Tommy and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the things that he does, regardless of that, you know, all the stuff that he's done for charity and that kind of thing as well, like, is huge. So I can, you know, I can 100% agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Another person like that's Mick G. I don't know if you know Mick G Production.
Yeah.
Yeah, he edits my TikToks. And he's another person who you can reach out to him. Like he's been through stuff, he understands. You can speak to him openly, and he'll offer you the best advice he can give. Like we're lucky. Well, I'd say I'm lucky in the aspect that I've got a lot of people I can turn to if I ever need help or support with things. I'm starting to build a nice community, and there's a lot of people who check up on me and see how I'm doing and everything. Obviously, I had a rocky road when I went to university mentally. I'm still recovering from that for the most part, but I'm a lot better than I was prior a few months ago. But I always have people reach out to me, check on me, and see how I am, and offer advice and support. So yeah, I've got a really good network around me currently.
But I think the main, you know, sort of aspect of that is that, you know, there is a lot more people than you think that are out there that are willing to help. You just got to, you know, you've just got to find the right people that you want to reach out to. And like you say, you've found it within your community, but you've also found it within people, you know, that you're closest to and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that if anyone in the chat is kind of struggling, you got to reach out to people.
Yeah, that's the first step. That's the hardest step at the end of the day. Like reaching out to somebody is the hardest step. You never want to do it. You always want to deal with your problems yourself. You always feel like you're going to be a burden, but that's not the case. That's not the case. Yeah. The chances are, I'm not even going to say chances are, there's definitely somebody out there who has been through what you've been through. They'll understand your struggles and they will have advice. Even if it's just listening to you. I found that getting stuff off my chest and having somebody actually listen is a big part of it. Like that really does help.
If not multiple people.
You know, by all means. Yeah.
So many people within, especially within content. You know, if you have a bad day regarding content side of things, 99% of the people that are streamers would have had that same experience. People coming in the chat, people doing things like that. So you've got so many people that you can reach out to.
Yeah.
So it's all about, you know, picking and finding those right people just to have within your sort of circle.
And at the end of the day, it's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to content and everything. Like you can't expect it overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's the same as a career, such as like medicine or law or anything like that, any sort of real world career. You think you spend years studying to achieve a career like that and get into a role which you're comfortable in. You can't treat content any different. You've got to put the time in. You can't expect results overnight. Some people get lucky, but you can't look at that and get down when you see somebody succeeding. You've just got to take that as motivation, propel yourself forward, just see what areas you can improve in and work on it yourself. Ask for advice if you need it, and just be patient. Take your time with it. Don't expect everything to happen at once. Some people have grinded for years. Ninja, prime example, back in the day, used to stream to 1 or 2 viewers playing Halo when he competed. And look at him now, like what he built for himself over years. That was over years. Like you can't expect it overnight or even in a matter of a few months. It might take a couple of years for you to get there, but growth's growth at the end of the day. If you're seeing growth, great. You're not, look at areas you can improve in and hopefully it'll come.
No, exactly. I think you've again spot on there. What we'll do though, we'll call it there. Trance, I appreciate you coming on, bro. It's been an absolute pleasure. really interesting, especially with the competitive side of things, because it's not something that I've not really jumped into with anyone. On that side of things, and I think that again, like yourself, you've been through it and you're coming out the other side of it. So, a real inspiration for a lot of people that are really trying to push, their career in content. And the amount of support that I've had from your sort of community within the chat today has been crazy. So, again, thank you all, for coming by. I will be uploading this onto YouTube as well. So if anyone missed part of the segment, just you can catch up on there. But again, Trance, really do appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thank you for having me on. It's my first podcast. I was a bit nervous at first, but as you can tell, I love a good waffle. I love just
exactly
chatting.
like me. Exactly
Yeah.
like me.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's been a pleasure.
appreciate it, bro.